There she lies, seductively inviting in the sun. Marstal. This town of approximately 2,500 inhabitants rounds off Eyreux to the east. Marstal means something like the stables of the prince. It was here that one could put in from the sea and get a horse for travelling further on Eyreux. A natural harbour which goes all the way back to the Stone Ages, Marstal has through time immemorial been inextricably associated with seafaring. Initially it was fishing. This changed in the 18th century to commercial trade in the Baltic area. The enterprising people of Marstal built themselves the long stone pier which stretches for a kilometre like a protective arm around the harbour. From the middle of the 19th century, trade in the Baltic was supplemented by long ocean voyages, and the Marstalers became a seafaring folk. They developed the characteristic Marstal schooner with its soft, almost feminine shape. Due to its speed, hold capacity, and modest crew size, the schooner was immediately extremely competitive on world markets. At the end of the 19th century and at the beginning of the 20th century, the shipping trade, both seafaring and shipbuilding, exploded in Marstal. In 1890, there were about 350 ships based in Marstal. By 1911, Marstal's fleet constituted a quarter of Denmark's total fleet of sailing ships. Pictures of ships laid up for repairs or waiting to be loaded with cargo give an impression of how the harbour looked when seamen returned home to Marstal with news from the outside world. Many sailed the Rio Grande route and to South America. One of the biggest markets, however, was Newfoundland in Canada. It was here that the schooners waited to be loaded with dried cod before setting sail across the Atlantic, bound for Spain or Portugal. From there they could sail to the Balearic Islands, Majorca, Minorca or Ibiza, where the hold was filled with salt, which could be sold in Newfoundland. This meant that it could be up to 3 years before the ship called at Marstal again. A fully rigged schooner is a beautiful sight, but it is modest in size when one wishes to cross the Atlantic. When the weather shows its teeth, a schooner seems suddenly flimsy and small. Thick and sturdy ropes could be torn asunder like twine, while heavy wooden planks could be snapped like twigs. At best, one survived damaged but whole. At worst, both ship and crew vanished without a trace. Such were the conditions for both sailors and their families at home in Marstal. The crew was typically 5 to 7 men. The many hardships and shared experiences created a sense of true togetherness, while at the same time there was a definite discipline, with the captain as absolute ruler. A clearly defined hierarchy, with the cabin boy at the bottom. The cabin boy's duties included cooking. It was an extremely harsh ordeal for a young lad of so few summers to go to sea with hardened, experienced sailors. However, there were many unique adventures on these trips, adventures and experiences which were not to be had sitting on a bench in a classroom. The sea, the weather, the struggles, the wars and misfortunes all contributed to making those young boys who sailed forth into the grown men who returned home again to safe harbour. The First World War hit Marstal hard. Mines, and especially German U-boats, caused great damage. At best, the crew managed to leave the ship before it was fired upon, or burst into flames. The mines gave no warning, and it was only blind luck that determined whether a ship and crew made it home. Modern metal ships and the First World War caused a great decrease in the shipping trade. The war was expensive for Marstal. 42 ships and 53 men were lost. A great loss, which the town commemorates with a monument. Nearby the monument, we find another stone to remind us of the constant conditions for seafaring men. The inscription reads, "Home, the dream was said and done. The sailor's longing drove him on. To secret heart's desire, and then the dream returned him home again. On stormy sea his troubled thoughts were turned towards the silent isle, the very place he wished to die."